إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما يعمر مساجد الله من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة ولم يخش إلا الله صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد كلما ذكره الذاكرون وصل على سيدنا مولانا محمد كلما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أفضل صلوات. My respected brothers and sisters and honorable elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Less than 2 weeks ago, we had the tragedy, the big tragedy of 3 young lives being taken by a criminal. We lost 3 young men and women in North Carolina. And last Friday we organized and held a vigil for these 3 people at the Islamic School of Rhode Island in Warwick. And just a day later, that school itself tragically became the victim of an expression of hate towards Islam and Muslims. That school is a place for children, where children come every single day to learn about their faith, about their religion, and about their studies. It's a place where little children, some who are 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, these very young children who come and learn in a peaceful environment, and their school, their home, away from home, was targeted by an ignorant and foolish person. And this has shocked all of us. And in Rhode Island, which is our home, we have a very small Muslim community. And we are scattered throughout this small state, the smallest state of America. But we are very strong in our spirit, alhamdulillah. And we stand together, we stand shoulder to shoulder. Our color of skin does not divide us Our language, our native language, our mother tongue does not divide us. Our wealth or poverty does not divide us. Our race does not divide us. Our origin does not divide us. It's our religion that unites us. It's our faith that unites all of us in one rope. And that is the rope of Allah. In Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. O believers, hold on to the rope of Allah firmly, all together. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And do not be divided. So we are holding on to the rope of Allah because it is our faith that is keeping us strong and that is keeping us united. This is just one of the recent tragic incidents of hate, or what we call Islamophobia. Not only in America, but throughout the Western culture, throughout the Western nations. The rate of attacks and hate against Islam and Muslims are unfortunately on the rise. It has increased. There have, in just these recent few weeks, there have been attacks against individuals. There have been attacks against masajid, against mosques. There have been attacks against groups. There have been attacks against schools. There have been attacks against Islamic organizations. And obviously against Islam. And this is very disturbing for all of us. We live in a country and we live in a state in which freedom of religion is a fundamental part of the Constitution, an inseparable part of the Constitution. We don't have to live in fear because we are Muslims. The Constitution guarantees freedom of religion for all the people. Not only for Christians, not only for Jews, not only for Hindus, or not only for Muslims, but for all the people, regardless of what they believe or what they practice. And we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this freedom. Because without this freedom, we would not have been able to practice our faith, our religion. We would not have been able to pray. We would not have been able to give zakat. We would not have been able to speak the truth. So we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for these ni'mas, for these blessings. But this narrative of Islamophobia is very disturbing to all of us. And it's an organized propagation. It's an organized propaganda against Islam and Muslims, which has its own roots, and is fueled by those organizations or those individuals who hate Islam and who hate Muslims. And it would be foolish to deny the existence of such elements and the existence of such individuals and such organizations that are solely based on this idea that Islam is all about violence, or all Muslims are terrorists, or Islam is what promotes terrorism, or Islam is trying to find its way into dominance of this country. These are the foolish ideas that people have developed in their minds, and now they are forcefully propagating those ideas. They have money, they have power, they have influence. So they're pushing their propaganda in full force into the minds of people. In order to people like you and I, if we watched those kind of television talk shows that are constantly blaming Islam and Muslims for all the problems of the world, then naturally we will develop this state of phobia against Islam, which is called Islamophobia. Phobia, according to the dictionary, is an exaggerated, usually inexplicable and illogical fear of a particular object, class of objects, or situation. It may be hard for the afflicted to sufficiently determine or communicate the source of this fear, but it exists. In recent years, a specific phobia has gripped Western societies, and that is Islamophobia. It was there before 9/11, but not on a scale that it is today. Researchers and policy groups define Islamophobia in differing detail, but the term's essence is essentially the same, no matter the source. An exaggerated fear, hatred, and hostility towards Islam and Muslims that is perpetuated by negative stereotypes, resulting in bias, discrimination, and the marginalization and exclusion of Muslims from social, political, and civic life. And it's something that can be found in the mainstream media. You don't have to go to another planet to find the practical examples of Islamophobia. You can find it in the mainstream. You can find it from the words of those politicians who are nationally known. And they are openly and fearlessly pushing their propaganda into the minds of innocent people, turning them into Islamophobes, turning them into thinking that Islam somehow is a mortal threat to America or to the West. And somehow, for some reason, the teachings of Islam, which they call Sharia law, are somehow going to be implemented in America. And this is why, not in one state, not in two states, in many states in America, the state legislatures have passed laws to vilify the teachings of Islam. They have outlawed Sharia law, which never existed, which is a fabricated, made-up term to suit their own goal and their own pursuit of fear-mongering, trying to bring people against Islam and against Muslims. Muslims are a tiny minority in America compared to the number of Christians or even Jews in America and others. But still, in this environment, if there is a tragedy involving anyone other than a Muslim as a suspect, then that never becomes a headline. If someone kills a lot of people, if he's not a Muslim, then that will never become a headline. That is somehow dropped out. That is somehow not taken seriously. But if a Muslim happens to be the suspect, who's not motivated by Islam in any way, a criminal is a criminal. A murderer is a murderer. A terrorist is a terrorist, regardless of what he believes in or what he says. But if someone happens to be a Muslim and he does something wrong, immediately the label comes out that the Muslim extremist, or the Muslim terrorist, or the Muslim murderer, or the Muslim criminal. But when anyone else does it, then their religion or their association with their religion is not a subject matter. This is all the result of that propaganda to make people afraid of Islam and Muslims. And it's very unfortunate. And the recent study proved that any American who knows a Muslim personally, they are not affected by such propaganda. And anyone who's never met a Muslim, who's never seen a Muslim, who's never been to a mosque or an Islamic center or an Islamic school, because of these kind of propagandas, because of these kind of fear-mongering, they are automatically afraid of Muslims. In their mind, if you could ask them, what is the perception of Islam or Muslim in your mind? They will tell you that Islam is like evil, or Muslims are evil. Because that's the kind of picture that is being built in their perception and in their minds. None of the other realities of Islam and Muslims are taking place in their mind because they would never hear about it. Any act of violence that you will see or that they will see on the TV, they will automatically associate that with Islam and Muslims. Any tragedy in the world other than the natural disasters, they will try to immediately associate that with Islam and Muslims. That Muslims are responsible and Islam is responsible. And this is a very dangerous trend. This is a disturbing reality. And that makes our job even harder. We are ordinary Muslims. We're living a normal life. But it becomes even more important for us to get out and introduce ourselves. Introduce ourselves to our neighbors, to our colleagues, to the people that we come in contact on a daily basis, or on a weekly basis, or on a monthly basis, either through our job, or through any other affiliation, or any other interaction. It becomes even more important for us to put ourselves out, so people will know us. That all the things that you may hear about Islam and Muslims are not the reality and not the truth. The truth is the opposite of that. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us, our institutions, our organizations, our masajid, our homes, our schools, our places of worship. Because truly, we have no power in front of all of this force that is coming against Islam and Muslims. Only Allah has a true power to defeat those forces, the forces of evil, the forces that are trying to dehumanize Muslims and defame Islam and accuse Islam and Muslims for the things that they have no attachment with. They have nothing to do with. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide these people, to have mercy upon them and give them the hidayah. So inshallah, we ask all of you to remember Islamic School of Rhode Island in your prayers as well. And they are trying to upgrade their surveillance system, and they are collecting donations. So we ask you, inshallah, if you can help, that would be a wonderful contribution, inshallah, towards safeguarding and protecting the children at the Islamic School of Rhode Island. Jazakumullah. Tonight, inshallah, we will have our visiting guest speaker, Sheikh Abdul Hamid, inshallah. He is visiting us from Virginia. And tonight, the halaqa, the dars will be given by him, inshallah, after Salat al-Isha. Salat al-Isha is at 7:30. We ask all of you, inshallah, to join us. And after the dars, there will be dinner for everyone, inshallah. And tomorrow again, after Salat al-Fajr, and in the evening, after Salat al-Isha, there will be brief talks by Sheikh Abdul Hamid, inshallah, here at Masjid al-Islam. Jazakallah.